So, good morning. Welcome back. We are going to go over the GCF homework, and I'm going to hit up a couple things that I don't know whether I did a great job doing last time. And first of all, I know some of you did 17, some of you didn't. That's okay. How did I get all these factors of 54? Well, I just took a calculator and I did 54 divided by 1, divided by 2, divided by 3, divided by 4. And if I got an integer, I wrote it down. If I didn't get an integer, I didn't write it down. Like if I do 54 divided by 5, I get 10.8. Not helpful. Okay. And I did the same for 135, and that's how I got my 9. That's the biggest number that they have in common. So that's why I took a 9x squared, because I went to the lowest exponent right there, squared, and that's what I took out and divided it through. Okay. I'd like to thank Aaron and Jada for finding my mistakes. Hurt my feelings, but that's okay. No, I appreciate that because I will make mistakes here. I'm working my way through it, and it's a one-take type of thing, so we're not going to back up and go over it again. And I apologize for that in advance. All right, sliding on down for the rest of the homework. And my screen is a little bit off right now, so I'm not sure what you can see and what you can't, so I'm going to go right up to the top there. And I think that gets us all. If you had something different, you want to ask a question, just say page 37, number 27. Could you show me that again? And down the bottom, I showed you what I did. I divided each term by 23, x to the fourth. Once again, a lot of times it's going to be that lead coefficient. It's going to be what you're going to be dividing by. And then if it's in standard form, it's going to be the number of x's on the last term. Okay? And once again, you write down your GCF and you write down your leftover. You got to have the GCF. Got to have the leftover. Okay, got to be there. Has to have both. If this is missing, like if you did this in one step and didn't bring it over at the end, you'll lose a point. If this was a Douglas quiz, this would probably be a 5-point problem, 1 to show some work, and then 1 for each one of the terms being right. Okay. All right, so today we're going to the next step, and that's going to be called factoring trinomials. And I'm going to show you how to do that on page 39. And on page 39 up at the top, you got some notes to fill in. And first thing you want to do is make sure that you're in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. And then you want to look for a greatest common factor, that thing that we just did. You want to look for the greatest common factor, because if you try and factor when there is a greatest common factor, that's going to be a problem. Okay, because it's not going to come out very well. And for today, the a is going to be equal to 1. That makes our life easier. When the a is not equal to 1, it just adds one more step. A little bit more complicated, but still doable. And when you're done, you're going to have 2 binomials. Okay, so we're going to basically break apart what we did 2 or 3 classes ago. And there's rules for this, and there's 4 different rules. And first of all, a's got to be equal to 1. And now we're going to find when the factors of c that add up to b. That's what we're looking for here. All right, remember here's our c and here's our b. Okay, remember it's the product and the sum. And for this one, we're looking at it for when c is positive. So we have a plus c at the end. Okay, so there's our plus c. That plus c is where you start with. You don't start here. You don't start in the beginning. You start looking right here at that plus c. And this tells me with the plus c that the signs are going to be the same. And then whatever this is tells me that's what they're going to be. So I'm going to have same signs, and they're both going to be pluses. So down at the bottom here, I'm going to have an x with a plus sign and an x with a plus sign. Okay? And I know you're looking ahead on me here. So what do we need? There's our b and here's our c. Well, it tells me we need the factors of 48, 2 numbers that multiply to give you 48, that sum or add to 19. Okay, once again, to get my factors of 48, I did 48 divided by 1, and 48 divided by 2, and 48 divided by 3, and 48 divided by 4, and 48 divided by 6. Okay, if I did 48 divided by 5, 48 divided by 5 would give me 945, 3.6. Not good. Don't care. We're not going to have x plus 9.6, x plus 5. That's not the way it works. Okay? So, and now we're looking at all these. We want to find the ones that add up to 19. So you just add across. This was going to be 49 26, 19, bing, 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 bing. Then we could have 16 and 14. So this middle number here, this 19, could have been any one of these numbers depending on what the factors were. We have to pick the one that works right. Okay, so 3 times 16 is 48. 3 plus 16 is 19. So we're going to put a plus 3 and a plus 16. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, well, could I do it as x plus 16 and x plus 3? This is okay too. Commutative property says that the order doesn't matter, especially when the signs are the same. You can't mess that up. Okay, so that's the first one. I'm going to flip over to the next page. One difference onto the next page. This time we're going to have the minus sign. So this tells me that the signs are the same. This tells me that they're both minus. So that's what I got down here, x minus and x minus. So my b is equal to negative 13. My c is equal to 36. So I'm looking for the factors of positive 36 that add up to negative 13. Once again, I'm going to go through the factors of 36. Now, there's a way to do this on your calculator, but I'm not going to take the time to do that right yet. Okay? And actually, it may be in the packet somewhere. So we need the factors of 36. And once again, signs are the same and they're both negative, so you can just put negatives on this. Negative 1, negative 36. Negative 2 times negative 18. Negative 3 times negative 12. Negative 4 times negative 9. And negative 6 times negative 6. Now if you keep going, you come up to negative 9 and negative 4 again, so you know you're going back down the other way. You don't need to worry about that. That's why I stopped when I got to the 6 and 6 when they're the same, because then the factors will start repeating themselves. When you're adding across, you're looking for the one that adds to negative 13, and that would be right here. Negative 4 minus 9 is negative 13. So negative 4, negative 9. Okay? Now, I'm going to have you guys try the ones on the bottom. I got your factors up for 8. They're 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. And I'll give you the factors for 16, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. And the factors of 9 are 1 and 9, and 3 and 3. And the 2 down at the bottom, once again, this is going to be all negatives. Okay, so pause the tape and take a minute and do that. Okay, so here we are. 2 sets of parentheses. They both get an X in the front seat. This tells me they're the same. Both pluses, so I got a plus and a plus. Now I'm looking at the factors of 8 that add up to 6. 2 plus 4 is 6, so 2 plus 4. Okay, so if this is an 8 at the end and this is an 8 at the end, I'm thinking this might be the factors on the other one. So once again, signs are the same and they're both plus. 1 and 8. Down at the bottom, signs are the same, both are minus, so I have x minus and x minus. And don't forget your parentheses. If your parentheses are there, that would not be a good thing. And we're looking for the factors of 16 that add up to 10. 2 and 8 is 10, so I got a 2 and an 8. And then on the other side, I have x minus and x minus. Factors of 9 that add up to 10. 1 plus 9 is 10. Okay, so once again, this is the first 2 cases with the plus signs in the back seat. Okay, and either a plus sign in the front for plus signs here, or a minus sign in the front with minus signs here. So now we're going over to page 41, sorry, and all of a sudden that C is going to be negative. Okay, so if C is negative, that changes things up. That tells me here that the signs are a plus and a minus. So inside my parentheses, actually I got it down here, I'm going to have x plus and x minus, and this plus sign here tells me my bigger factor is going to be positive. Okay? So here we go. My A is 1, my B is 2, and my C is negative 48. So I'm looking for the factors of negative 48 that add to 2. And if you can do this in your head and go, oh, I know what that is, good for you. That's great. But once again, going through the process, this time we want to have the bigger factor to be positive. So I know I'm going to have negative 1 and positive 48, and negative 2 and positive 24, negative 3 and positive 16, and negative 4 and positive 12, and negative 6 and positive 8. Okay? And the one that adds up to 2 is right there. All right, and so I'm going to do plus 8 and minus 6. And yes, you could write this as x minus 6 and x plus 8, but not x plus 6, x minus 8. That would give you a negative 2x in the middle. Okay. Oops, you're not on the screen. My apologies. Okay, so this is not good. You don't want to be that guy. All right? If this was multiple choice, I'm sure that one of your multiple choices would be the opposite setup. So you got to be really careful about your signs in the middle, especially with that negative there. Okay, so that's when you have a plus sign with the B and a minus sign with the C. And then the last case, obviously, is going to be with all minuses. And this is the one that seems to blow everybody's mind. Okay, so first of all, you have a negative 1 right there. You got to remember that. So B is equal to negative 1. That's that magical mystery invisible 1. And then C is negative 30. Okay, so this tells me that the signs are different. So I have a plus and a minus. And this tells me the bigger one is negative. All right, just so the parentheses are going to look kind of the same as what we had before. But this time I'm going to put my negative on the bigger factors. So I need the factors of negative 30 that add up to negative 1. So that's going to be 1 and negative 30, 2 and negative 15, 3 and negative 10, 4 doesn't go into 30, 5 and negative 6, and then it goes back to, then you'd have 6 and negative 5. Okay, just going the other way around. Okay, and let's see what we get. So if we did this all out, if we weren't sure, negative 29 and negative 13 and negative 7, and here's our bing, 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 negative 1. Okay, and then this would give us a positive 1. So that's why that's a bad thing, because we have the opposite sign there. So I just fill in down the bottom here a plus 6 and a minus 5. And I think we're good to go. All right, once again, you're looking for the factors of the last term that add up to the middle term. And there's kind of a guide here with the pluses and the minuses, just to kind of guide you a little bit. If you know you have a negative at the end, that means that the signs are going to be different in your parentheses. If you have a positive at the end, that means that there's going to be the same signs. All right? And then the other one tells you what it is. Okay. Next page, there's 4 for you to try. And you already have the factors of 8 from the other page. Let me give you the factors of 14. So you have 1 and negative 14 and 2 and negative 7, because the bigger one's got to be negative. And over here you have 1 and negative 15 and 3 and negative 5. So pause the tape, no cheating, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so hopefully here, once again, you got 2 sets of parentheses. And if you're struggling with this, write your parentheses out, put your X's in there, get your brain thinking about it a little bit. Signs are different. Bigger one positive, so it's going to be x plus 4, x minus 2, because 4 times negative 2 gives me negative 8, and 4 minus 2 gives me a positive 2. And here we have x plus 8 and x minus 1. Okay. All right, down the bottom, the bigger ones gets the negative. That's what we had here. So I'm going to do x plus 2 and x minus 7. And then x plus 3 and x minus 5. Okay, and once again, you could switch the position of the x minus 7 and the x plus 2. That's not a problem. That's the commutative property. Just the negative has to be on the 7 and the negative has to be on the 5. All right, if you switch that, it would give you a positive 2 in the middle, and then over here a positive 5 in the middle. And that's what you're looking for on this. Okay, so then we have one more thing to look at here. This one looks like it's going to be a little bit quicker than the last one, even though you'll have some practice to do in a second. And now we're talking about the difference of two squares. And this is called dots. And if you remember, I called this a conjugate pair because I like using those fancy math words. Okay, conjugate pair. And when you have the same thing in your parentheses with opposite signs, a plus and a minus, the middle terms cancel out. You got 2x and a negative 2x. That gives you 0x, which you don't need to write. So you wind up with something like that. But this has to be a perfect square. This has to be a perfect square. And that must be a minus. Okay? If they gave you x squared plus 4, you're done. It won't factor. Okay? All right, so what does it look like when you do these? Well, I look at it and I go, oh, look at that. X squared. And then I have a minus and a 36. Is 36 a perfect square? Well, check in your calculators, do the square root of 36, see what happens. It turns out to be 6. So when I'm doing this, all I do is go bada bing, bada boom, 2 sets of parentheses, x plus minus 6. Okay? Pretty straightforward when you just have a variable squared and then a perfect square after it with a minus sign. Must be a minus sign. Of course, there are tricks on these things. Sometimes they do what they did in the middle here. You got 16x squared minus 25. Well, 16 is a perfect square, x squared is a perfect square, and 25 is a perfect square. So you get a minus sign, okay? So you take the square root of the first term, okay? Square root of 16 is 4, square root of x squared is x, and put that in the front seat of both of your things, 4x. One gets a plus and one gets a minus. Then the square root of 25 is 5, okay? Don't be that guy, common mistake. If this was multiple choice, this would be one of your choices, would be x plus 4 and x minus 5. Because you don't like having numbers with your x's. This is not good. No, don't be that guy. All right? And then, of course, there's tricks. All of a sudden, we have this x to the 4th here. Oh my gosh, what's the square root of x to the 4th? Well, you just divide the exponents in half. So you're going to go boom. And you're going to go like this with your 2 sets of parentheses. You're going to get an x squared in the front and an x squared in the back. All right, one gets a plus, one gets a minus. And you take the square root of 81 and that gets you 9. Okay? You're saying, well, that's just the same thing, isn't it, Mr. Douglas? Well, this is one that usually shows up on the Regents exam. And it's like a 2-pointer, believe it or not. Okay, and if you stop here, you'd get 1 point. You're saying, Mr. Douglas, I finished the problem. No, you didn't. Because unfortunately, this right here is another dots problem. And that's what they want you to look at. They want you to factor it completely. That's what it'll say. Factor this completely. And you got to do it again. So you just bring this down. Don't forget to bring it down. X squared plus 9. And then you're going to do dots on this. And that's going to give you an x plus 3 and an x minus 3. All right. So once again, if you see that x to the 4th, be really careful about it because once you do that square rooting, you're probably going to have one that you can do again. All right, so I'd like you to take a minute and do the problems on page 49. And let me circle some for you. Let's do number 1, 2, 3, 6 and 7. 1, 2, 3, 6 and 7. Okay, so take a minute and do those, and we will go over them momentarily. Remember, that's a perfect square. Once again, use your calculator. The other one that comes up often is 289. The square root of 289 is 17. Okay, they like those weird little numbers, and the only factors there are 169 is 13 and 289 is 17. All right. Once again, the 49x squared, you got a 7x in front seat and back seat, and then plus and minus 12. All right, and I didn't do that one. I'm going to do that one with you. And then over here on this one, remember what the first thing on the first line that we did this? It said GCF first. But yeah, 4 is a perfect square, x squared is a perfect square, 36 is a perfect square, so that you think is the right answer. But the question will say factor completely, so you need to pull out the 4x first, then the x plus 3 and x minus 3. Always look for the GCF first. Always, always, always. Now, the other two, first one over here, number 6. This one is important because you want to do it in the order they give it to you. So you're going to have the 3 plus the x and the 3 minus the x. If you did it the other way around, where you put the x in the front seat, which is the common mistake, then you'd have to have a -1. So you could have an or -1 times x plus 3 times x minus 3. Okay? But this is what I would anticipate. This was multiple choice. This is what you'd see. And the last one is like the one I just did on the previous page. If you do the square root, you get x squared. No, I don't want that. I want parentheses. And then a plus 16 and a minus 16. And you can do dots again here. You get x squared plus 16 times x plus 4 times x minus 4. Okay. Anything else interesting down at the bottom here? Let me just take a look at that one at the very bottom, 12. Because that looks like craziness. Look at all those letters there. Okay? Don't be afraid when you get a letter in the back seat. That just means you're going to have to do the process for each one. So if we do the square root of 100 x squared y squared, that would give me 10xy and 10xy. One gets a plus, one gets a minus. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of a to the 4th is a squared. So it looks nasty, but once again, if you have a letter in the end of your trinomial, it just puts a letter in the back seat of your problem there. Nothing to worry about. All right. What about number 13? That one looks interesting. X squared plus 4. That's really simple, right? All right. You can't do it. Remember, this is the one I just said on the previous page. You're done. Because that is a plus sign. Can't do it. All right. And then the other one, believe it or not, x squared minus 1. Lots of mistakes on that one. Because everybody thinks the square root of 1 is equal to 1/2. And that's not true. The square root of 1 is 1. So you get an x plus 1 and an x minus 1. Okay. So that's it for this lesson. And your homework is the next page. And it's either the odds or the evens. I don't remember. But when we come back next time, I'll have them all done for you. And it is on Google Classroom. And there is an assignment on Delta Math that you can do for factoring trinomials. And do one or the other. If you turn it in on Google Class, that's fine. If you turn it in on Delta, I'll catch that as well. And you guys are doing great for the ones that I'm getting work from. And you're asking good questions and you're finding my mistakes, which is also a good thing. So have yourself a great day, and I will hear from you on email.